The champagne flute slipped from Margaret Winters' manicured fingers, crystal shattering against Italian marble as the CEO's words echoed through the ballroom. 500 guests in designer gowns and custom tuxedos turned to stare at me, just a housewife in a simple black dress. "Ladies and gentlemen," CEO Harrison Blake continued, his voice carrying across the stunned silence, "please join me in welcoming the new majority shareholder of Winters Industries, Mrs. Sophia Winters." I stood slowly, my husband Daniel's hand finding mine under the table, and walked toward the stage through a sea of dropped jaws and whispered speculation. My mother-in-law's face had gone from champagne pink to ghostly white, her carefully Botoxed features frozen in shock. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand this moment, you need to know about the last 5 years of family dinners, subtle insults, and the secret I'd been keeping since before I even met Daniel. I'm Sophia Winters, 32, and according to my in-laws, I'm everything wrong with their son's life. Too ethnic, couldn't you find a nice white girl? Daniel? Too quiet, she barely speaks at dinner. It's unsettling. Too domestic, what kind of ambition is raising children? And most damning of all, too poor, she probably trapped him for the money. What they didn't know was that I'd been managing my family's investment portfolio since I was 18, turning my late father's modest tech startup shares into a fortune through strategic trades and venture capital investments. By 25, I'd accumulated enough wealth to retire. By 27, when I met Daniel at a charity auction, I was worth more than his entire family combined. But I fell in love with a man who saw me, not my bank balance, so I kept it quiet. "Why didn't you tell me?" Daniel had asked when I finally revealed my background 3 months into dating. "Because I wanted you to love me for me, not for what I could buy you." He'd pulled me close and whispered, "I'd love you if you were actually the barista you pretended to be." We married a year later in a small ceremony. His family attended grudgingly, his mother Margaret spending the entire reception lamenting the lack of proper society connections my family brought to the table. My mother, a retired mathematics professor, simply smiled and said nothing about the patents she held or the companies she'd helped build. The real torture began after the wedding. Every Sunday dinner at the Winters estate became an exercise in endurance. Margaret would parade her daughter Patricia's achievements: Harvard MBA, junior partner at a law firm, married to a senator's son. Then she'd turn to me with that practiced smile that never reached her eyes. "And how's the homemaking, Sophia? Found any good recipes on Pinterest?" "Actually, I've been working on." "Oh, that's nice, dear, though I suppose when one doesn't have a real career, hobbies become very important." Daniel would squeeze my hand under the table, but I'd learned not to respond. Margaret Winters had been queen bee of Connecticut high society for 40 years. She knew exactly how to cut without leaving visible wounds. His father, Richard, was worse in his own way, the founder of Winters Industries, a manufacturing conglomerate worth hundreds of millions. He treated me like the hired help. During one particularly memorable dinner, he'd actually asked me to refill his wine glass, forgetting, or pretending to forget, that I was his daughter-in-law, not the waitstaff. "She's a gold digger," I once overheard Patricia telling her friends at a garden party. "Daniel's too blind to see it, but she targeted him. Probably researched our family's net worth before she ever accidentally bumped into him at that charity thing." The irony was delicious. I donated $2 million to that charity anonymously. For 5 years, I endured it. I decorated our home, hosted dinner parties, volunteered at literacy programs, and yes, I spent time on Pinterest, because after years of 80-hour weeks managing investments, I'd discovered I actually enjoyed cooking. Sue me. Daniel knew something was off. He'd find me in my home office sometimes, poring over financial documents I'd quickly minimize when he entered. "Working on the household budget again?" he'd tease. "Something like that," I'd reply, closing my laptop on quarterly reports from companies I'd invested in. He never pressed. He trusted me, and that trust was everything. The breaking point came 6 months ago at Margaret's 65th birthday party. 200 of Connecticut's elite gathered at the country club, and I'd spent weeks helping plan the event, not that anyone acknowledged it. Poor Daniel. I heard Margaret telling her friends by the dessert table, he could have had anyone. The Ashford girl was practically throwing herself at him. "She's a cardiac surgeon now, you know." Instead, he chose, "Well, I suppose she's pretty enough, that's something. She is standing right there, mother," Patricia added with a laugh, "though I suppose when you contribute nothing to society, you have time to eavesdrop." I'd excused myself to the bathroom and spent 10 minutes doing breathing exercises. Daniel found me there, tears ruining my carefully applied makeup. "We're leaving," he said firmly. "No, that's what she wants." For me to make a scene, to prove I don't belong. Sophia, I'm fine, let's go back. But I wasn't fine. That night, I made a decision. Richard Winters had built his empire through manufacturing, but like many traditional businesses, he'd been slow to adapt to changing times. Winters Industries was hemorrhaging money, propped up by legacy contracts and Richard's reputation. They needed a massive cash infusion and strategic restructuring to survive. I started buying shares. Not directly, that would have been too obvious, through shell companies, investment trusts, and strategic partners I'd cultivated over the years. Every time a shareholder got nervous about quarterly losses, I was there with a generous offer. When board members quietly divested, my representative swooped in. It took 6 months and approximately $180 million, but by last week, I controlled 51% of Winters Industries. The night before the gala, I finally told Daniel everything. You're, what? He stared at the documents spread across our dining room table. I'm worth approximately $500 million, I said quietly. Well, $320 million after buying your father's company, Sophia. How? So I told him, about my father's startup, about teaching myself trading at 15, about turning $100,000 into $10 million by 22, about the venture capital firm that thought I was just the pretty assistant until I revealed I was actually their biggest investor. Why didn't you tell me? His voice was hurt, confused. Because I loved being your wife, not your rich wife, not your investor wife, just yours, and I didn't want to deal with your family's reaction. So why now? I pulled up the latest financial reports. Because your father is about to lose everything. Winters Industries is 3 months from bankruptcy. Your mother's social position, Patricia's trust fund, your father's legacy, it's all about to disappear. And you're going to save it? I'm going to transform it. But first, I smiled. First, I'm going to have a little fun. The gala was perfect. Margaret had outdone herself with the decorations, crystal chandeliers, exotic orchids, a string quartet playing softly. She swept through the crowd in custom Chanel, accepting compliments on her taste and connections. Darling, she air-kissed a friend, you must meet Patricia's new husband. He's just been made partner at, oh, Sophia. Her smile faltered slightly seeing me. Don't you look adequate? Is that off the rack? It's Armani, I replied evenly, from their couture line. How ambitious of you. She turned back to her friend. Anyway, as I was saying about people who actually contribute to society, that's when Harrison Blake took the stage. Before we begin tonight's program, he said, I have an important announcement about the future of Winters Industries. Richard puffed up in his chair, clearly expecting some honor or accolade. As you know, these have been challenging times for our company, but tonight, I'm thrilled to announce that we've received a significant investment from Chin Capital, which has acquired a controlling interest in Winters Industries. The murmur that went through the crowd was like wind through autumn leaves. Richard's face went red, then purple. Chin Capital? He sputtered. Who the hell? Furthermore, Harrison continued, I'm delighted to introduce you to the woman behind Chin Capital, our new majority shareholder, Mrs. Sophia Winters. The walk to that stage felt like floating. 5 years of dismissive comments, snide remarks, and outright insults fuel each step. Daniel's hand on my back steadied me, his pride radiating like warmth. Thank you, Harrison, I said into the microphone, my voice carrying clear and strong. I know this comes as a surprise to many of you, particularly my family. I looked directly at Margaret, who appeared to be having a small stroke. For the past 5 years, I've had the privilege of observing Winters Industries from a unique perspective. As Richard's daughter-in-law, I've heard countless stories about the company's history, its values, its potential. Richard was gripping his whiskey glass so hard I thought it might shatter. I've also observed its challenges, declining market share, resistance to innovation, a board that values tradition over transformation. That ends now. You can't do this, Richard roared, standing up. This is my company, I corrected gently. It was your company, and you drove it into the ground with your refusal to adapt. Your stock price has dropped 60% in 2 years. You're hemorrhaging talent to competitors. Your factories are using technology from the last century. How dare you? Sit down, Richard, I said quietly, and something in my tone made him comply. I'm not finished. I turned back to the audience. Winters Industries has incredible bones, talented workers, valuable patents, strategic partnerships. What it lacks is vision. That's what Chin Capital brings to the table. Starting Monday, we'll be implementing a comprehensive restructuring. Yes, Richard, you'll be stepping down as CEO. Harrison will be taking over operational duties while we search for a permanent replacement. Patricia's husband was frantically Googling on his phone. His eyes widened as he found what he was looking for, shoving the screen at Patricia, who went pale. We'll be investing $50 million in updating our manufacturing facilities, another $30 million in R&D. We're going to transform Winters Industries from a dinosaur into a leader in sustainable manufacturing. And the board? Someone called out. I smiled. The board will be restructured to include individuals with actual expertise in modern manufacturing, not just Richard's golf buddies. Though don't worry, gentlemen, I'll make sure your exit packages are generous. Margaret finally found her voice. This is impossible. You're nobody, a housewife. You married my son for his money. Actually, Margaret, I said sweetly, your son married me for my personality, though I suppose that's hard for you to understand, since yours is so lacking. The gasp from the audience was audible. Let me be clear, I continued. I've spent 5 years listening to how I'm not good enough, not white enough, not connected enough, not ambitious enough. Meanwhile, I've been managing a portfolio worth more than everyone in this room combined. I pulled up my phone and projected some numbers onto the screen behind me. Chen Capital, founded when I was 22. Initial investment, $2 million. Current value, $500 million. Number of companies in our portfolio, 47. Average ROI, 340%. But you said you were a barista, someone called out. I said I was working at a coffee shop when I met Daniel. I didn't mention I owned the chain. Daniel's shocked laugh carried across the room. You see, I said, looking directly at my mother-in-law, I could have destroyed this company, could have bought it and dismantled it for parts. The patents alone are worth more than what I paid. Margaret was swaying slightly, clutching Patricia's arm. But I won't, because despite everything, I love my husband, and this company is his family's legacy, so I'll save it, transform it, make it something to be proud of again, under one condition, I added, enjoying the way Richard leaned forward desperately. What condition? He growled. Sunday dinners are at our house from now on, and Margaret, you'll be bringing dessert. Store-bought is fine. I know cooking isn't your strong suit. The laughter that rippled through the crowd broke the tension. Even Harrison cracked a smile. Oh, and Patricia? I turned to my sister-in-law. That cardiac surgeon you mentioned earlier, Dr. Ashford? She's one of my closest friends. We serve on 3 charity boards together. She told me about Daniel turning her down, said he was clearly in love with someone else. That was a week before I met him. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Any questions? I asked the room at large. Richard stood again, more subdued this time. Why? Why save the company? Or why hide who I was? Both. I considered the question. I hid because I wanted a real family. I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I'm worth. As for saving the company, consider it a wedding gift. 5 years late. But then again, you never gave us one either. Sophia. Margaret's voice was small, defeated. You what? Margaret? You're sorry? For which part? Calling me a gold digger? Treating me like the help? Making sure I knew every single dinner that I wasn't good enough for your precious son? All of it, she whispered. I pretended to consider. No, I don't think I'll accept that apology. Not yet. Maybe after you've spent 5 years being dismissed and diminished. Ask me again in 2029. I stepped down from the stage and walked back to Daniel, who pulled me into his arms. You're incredible, he murmured against my hair. Also terrifying, but mostly incredible. Are you angry? About the secrets? I'm processing, he admitted, but mostly I'm in awe. My wife, the secret billionaire, multimillionaire, I corrected, and not so secret anymore. The rest of the gala was a blur. People approaching with congratulations, business cards, investment proposals. Richard and Margaret left early, Patricia trailing behind them. Harrison stayed close, discussing transition plans and asking surprisingly insightful questions about my vision for the company. You know, he said quietly, I've been waiting 20 years for someone to stand up to Richard. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I warned. The real work starts Monday. The drive home was quiet. Daniel held my hand, processing everything he'd learned. So the home office, he started, is actually my command center. Yes, and the cooking hobby is a real hobby. Turns out I actually like domesticity when it's a choice, not an expectation. And the Pinterest boards? I laughed. Okay, those were mostly for show, though I did find some excellent soup recipes. He pulled into our driveway, our modest colonial that Margaret always sniffed at for being too middle class. No regrets? He asked. About revealing everything? None. I'm tired of being underestimated. Mom's going to need therapy. I'll pay for it. Consider it part of her severance package. She's not actually on the company payroll. Oh, I know, but she's been taking a consulting fee of $10,000 a month for the last 15 years. We'll be terminating that arrangement. Daniel whistled. You really did your homework. I've had 5 years to prepare. Inside, I kicked off my heels and went straight to the kitchen, pulling out ingredients for midnight pasta. Daniel watched from the doorway, a strange expression on his face. What? I asked, heating olive oil in a pan. Just reconciling things. My wife the homemaker, my wife the business mogul, my wife who's currently making carbonara at 1 a.m. in a ball gown. I contain multitudes, I said, cracking eggs into a bowl. That you do. He came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. I love you, all of you, even the parts you hid, even the part that owns your father's company, especially that part. It was beautiful watching you destroy them with spreadsheets and politeness. We ate pasta at our kitchen island, still in formal wear, planning the future, the companies I wanted to acquire, the innovations we could implement, the scholarships we'd fund, the foundation we'd build. No more hiding, Daniel said firmly. You're brilliant. The world should know it. No more hiding. I agreed, though I'm keeping the Pinterest boards. Some of those recipes really are excellent. My phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. We need to talk. I showed it to Daniel, who laughed. What are you going to do? Nothing tonight. Let her stew. Tomorrow, maybe I'll invite her for coffee, at one of my cafes. Evil. I like it. Another text. This one from Patricia. I googled you. Holy shit. At least she's succinct, Daniel observed. By morning, the business press had picked up the story. Mystery mogul saves Winters Industries. The $500 million housewife. From Pinterest to powerhouse, the Sophia Winters story. I turned off my phone and made breakfast. French toast with fresh berries. Because being rich doesn't mean you can't enjoy simple pleasures. Daniel came down, hair still mussed from sleep. Journal's been calling. Wall Street Times wants an interview. Forbes is begging for a profile. After breakfast, I said, sliding a plate across to him. You know what the best part of last night was? He asked, drowning his toast in syrup. What? When Mom choked on her champagne. I've never seen her speechless before. That was satisfying, I admitted. What's the plan for the company, really? I pulled out my tablet, showing him the presentation I'd prepared. Full modernization, sustainable practices, employee ownership programs. We'll make it a place people want to work, not just a paycheck. And my father gets a nice office with no actual power. He can keep the title founder and tell war stories to anyone who'll listen. Generous, considering. I'm not cruel, Daniel, just tired of being underestimated. The doorbell rang. We looked at each other. Too early for visitors, Daniel said. I peeked through the window and laughed. It's your mother. She's holding a pie. A pie? From the bakery box. It's store-bought. Daniel grinned. She's learning. I opened the door. Margaret stood there in casual clothes I'd never seen her wear, holding the pie like a peace offering. Sophia, she said quietly, may I come in? I stepped aside. She entered our home, the one she'd criticized for 5 years, and looked around as if seeing it for the first time. I've been awake all night, she said, thinking. Coffee? I offered. Please. I poured 3 cups while she sat at our kitchen table, the one she'd called quaint at our housewarming. I owe you an apology, she began. Yes, you do. I was threatened by you. You didn't need us, didn't need our money or connections. You just loved my son. That terrified you? She nodded. I've spent my whole life believing value came from what you could provide. Money, status, connections. You had your own, so I couldn't understand why you were here. Because I loved him, I said simply. Still do. I see that now. I also see what I've lost. 5 years of knowing my daughter-in-law, the real one, not the shadow I forced you to become. Daniel reached for my hand under the table. I don't expect forgiveness, Margaret continued, but I hope, maybe, we could start over? I sipped my coffee, considering. On my terms. What are your terms? No more comments about my appearance, my background, or my choices. No more comparisons to other women. No more treating me like staff at family events. And you'll attend sensitivity training. Sensitivity training? My company requires it for all executives. Consider yourself enrolled. She winced but nodded. Fair. And Margaret? The next time you feel the urge to make a snide comment, remember, I own your house now too. The mortgage is held by one of my subsidiaries. Her eyes widened. I won't foreclose, I assured her, but respect is non-negotiable. Understood. She pushed the pie forward. Apple, From the Dutch bakery on Main, that's Daniel's favorite, I observed. I know, I called and asked. She stood to leave, then paused. Sophia, what you said last night, about wanting a real family? Yes, you have one. We just forgot how to act like it. After she left, Daniel and I sat in comfortable silence. Think she means it? He asked. Maybe, time will tell, and if she reverts? I smiled. Then I'll buy her country club. He laughed, pulling me close. My wife, the terrifying mogul. Your wife, the homemaker who happens to be a mogul. Even better. My phone rang. Harrison Blake. Monday morning? He asked. Ready to transform Winters Industries? Born ready, I replied. Oh, and Harrison? We're implementing casual Fridays. I'm tired of wearing suits to prove my worth. Whatever you say, boss, boss. I liked the sound of that. But for now, I had French toast to finish and a husband to kiss. The business world could wait. After 5 years of being diminished, I had all the time in the world to rebuild, both a company and a family. Margaret's pie was actually quite good. Maybe there was hope for her yet. Though I still wasn't sharing my Pinterest boards. A woman needs some secrets. After all,